Good morning to all of you. My name is Sanela Bešić. I'm president of an NGO from Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you can see, the topic of this session is anti-discrimination. The Republic of Croatia selected the issue of anti-discrimination as one of its priorities during its presidency. We have three panelists that will address this topic: representatives of the European Roma Rights Center, representative of the Office of the Ombudsman from Croatia, and representative of the Institute of Social Sciences from Croatia. The floor now goes to Mr. Sinan GOKCEN. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thank you.
Madam Chair, good morning, and let me start as usual by thanking the organizers and giving us the opportunity to be here and make this intervention. Thank you. Most of this morning and most of yesterday we talk about what we have done so far to improve the lives of and the conditions of Roma. I am representing European Roma Rights Center, and our role is to talk about what has not been done, what is missing, and what are the failures and lackings. I'm going to present a more pessimistic section of the Roma issues, perhaps. Very briefly, we are an international human rights organization based in Budapest. We are dealing with Roma issues and combating discrimination across Europe, but in particular 12 target countries that we operate. We call ourselves as a legal advocacy organization, which means in a way that we force change through litigation. However, this is not the only thing we do. We do research, we do trainings, we do advocacy, we do media work. It's a whole package, all combined, but the focus is discrimination. And first of all, let me say that we don't see the Roma issues as a poverty issue or something similar, a development issue, but we believe that, I believe that the very fundamental of Roma issues is the discrimination and segregation and exclusion. If we don't start any program, any policy which is not based on this perception, I think it is destined to fail, because it's not the correct, how do you say, wording, understanding of the problem. I know that we have a very short time, so I'm going to be very, very brief. So I'm going to very briefly talk about our strategic litigation activities. I'm sure you all are very familiar with this concept, but for those who are not that familiar, strategic litigation is a process through court systems, domestic or international, forcing a systemic change within a given country. So it's not only addressing the sufferings of one individual, but through this opportunity, or not an opportunity in a good sense, through this occasion or incident, to secure, to force policy, perception, or legal change in a country. As ERRC, we've done almost 500 cases, both in domestic and international tribunals, and we have won several cases in European Court of Justice, European Court of Human Rights, and other international tribunals. So I was thinking yesterday, probably except Albania and Montenegro, we have sued all of you governments here, and we are still in the court with some of you in pending cases. So I apologize. We don't hate you. We don't, we are not hostile to you. We are just trying to change some failures which should improve, which should have been improved. A very, very last example. Last Friday, the European Court announced a decision against Ukraine, which in a case which we litigated 10 years ago. 10 years ago, in 2001, 3 individuals in Ukraine entered a Roma house and burned the house, and then they locked the door and didn't let people go out. 5 people, including 3 children, died. And Ukrainian government didn't do anything to properly prosecute this terrible, horrible crime, and nobody was punished. And we took the case after exhaustion of the domestic remedies. We went to the European Court, and yesterday, European Court, on Friday, European Court said that Ukraine failed to properly prosecute this crime and instructed certain remedies. And more importantly, the European Court, which is very stingy in that sense, ruled this on Article 14, which is discrimination. So 2 months ago, again, we won another case against Ukraine on police brutality. There's a long list of this kind of court orders. However, you can find them on our website. But the problem here is implementation of the judgments. I put some material in the front desk. It's a Romarized issue, our journal on implementation of judgments. There are hundreds of judgments by European Court or by other international tribunals, but not implemented by national governments. One of the most famous one is DH and others versus Czech Republic. 5 years ago, we won this case. It was a ARC case. It is about segregation in education, and the court clearly says that, no, you cannot segregate Romani children. Very clear. There's no question about it. It's a very progressive, very radical, groundbreaking case. We are going to celebrate, in quotation marks, the 5th anniversary of this victory with no progress in the field at all, almost. Czech Republic changed the names of the schools from special to practical or other way around, but in the essence, nothing. Still, we are observing segregation in education. And how shall we progress? This is our power. We do advocacy, we do litigation, we won cases, and then the governments do not implement them. So what shall we do? I remind you a very famous example, Little Rock 9. If you're not familiar, in this very famous Brown versus Board of Education case in the US, which ordered by Supreme Court that segregation separate but equal is not acceptable. This is discrimination, which was set by Plessy case, and ended segregation in American education system. 9 black young person wanted to attend the high school in a town called Little Rock, but they were barred, they were banned by the school administration, despite the Supreme Court decision. And at that point, President Eisenhower intervened, and he sent the troops, and troops accompanied these kids to attend the school. So what shall we do? Shall we ask NATO to go to Ostrava and ask, accompany the Romani children when they go to special schools, to regular schools? What are the tools we have? I mean, this is synergy. If the governments are really committed to address the systemic isolation, systemic segregation, and discrimination of Romani people, they should cooperate with us. We have the knowledge, you have the power. Let's bring them together. We have expertise. Trust me, we know better than you do. We know the issues better than you do in most cases. But if you develop strategies, if you develop national action plans, etc., without consultation with the Roman organizations, without reflecting the facts of the reality, well, it's going to fail. It's going to fail big time. And second, why don't you implement the court orders? This is our only power. Thanks to Croatian government, we won another case against Croatia, Oršuš. It was again a segregation education case, and they implemented. So it means that it's not that difficult. But still, last week, it was mentioned yesterday, in the same region, parents did not want 50 Romani kids to enter the kindergarten. And what the Croatian government do was step back, and they took the kids back to their previous school. They did not enforce the Oršuš case in a way. We need to use our resources to advocate to change, for change. not to reproduce the prejudices and this already set reality, but everybody, including the governments, should use their resources to enforce a positive change. Do you have some time? Okay. Through strategic litigation, we do not, as I said, seek only remedy for individuals. We target systemic changes, be it a change in policy, be it change in legal system, public perception, and so on and so forth. So it's a very exhausting work, because the court cases, as you all know, takes a very long time. This Ukrainian case that I mentioned took 10 years. DH case took 11 years. Orshush case took, I think, 7 years. These are expensive processes, and you are dealing with very vulnerable Roma client. This is not like, some, wealthy people doing a legal combat. These people are often very vulnerable, very open to police abuse during the court process, which we have done in Macedonia when Yashar case was in proceedings. He was beaten several times during the court process. So it's a complex issue, and if we do not have government's full cooperation in that sense, there's no chance to move. As far as I know, only in Bulgaria there are 500 cases ruled by a European court and not implemented. So this is not a Roma only issue. This is a human rights issue. This is one of the main challenges before the human rights movement in Europe. And please do not forget that we are operating in a more and more hostile environment in Europe. Almost in every single European country, extreme right is rising. There are new countries joining in this wagon. In many countries, extreme right parties are second or third force in the parliament. So the environment is not becoming more and more friendly. So there are more burden on the government's shoulders to cooperate to improve the conditions. Bernard knows much better because he studied every single national strategy. But as far as I know, none of the national strategy refer discrimination issues, or just a few perhaps, right, Bernard? I mean, they don't take this as a starting point in many national strategies. Okay, so without that concept, without discrimination component, there's not much progress. In Turkey, which is for the first time joining to this decade meeting, and we are very happy after lobbying for several years to take Turkey to that meeting, we won a case, for example, in domestic court, Sulukule. The oldest Romani settlement in Europe was destroyed by the municipality project, urban transformation project. We won the case. The court said that this plan cannot be implemented. This is violating the very basic rights of the Romani people. And a minister went to the TV and said, we are not going to implement that court judgment. Openly. I mean, it's not a secret. I'm not gossiping, etc., etc. This was said in public directly. We are ready to pay the compensation, which arises from this non-implementation, but we are not going to implement. So, what shall we do? Honestly, I'm asking to every single person here and to all government representatives, if you don't implement court judgments, what tool we have to enforce a change in a given society? Shall we start a guerrilla war? Like, seriously. I mean, this is one of the strongest tools that we have. We go to court, we win the case, and then it is not implemented. And we are raising this issue on almost all international arenas. This is so crucial. Because when we lose this tool, there's not much we can do. As I said, when we started the litigation on behalf of the DH litigants in Czech Republic, they were kids, they were going to school, and now they are grown up because it took 11 years for the court process. Now we are preparing a second DH case for their children, because their children, despite the court order, are facing the same problem. So what shall we do? Are we going to make it DH3 for their grandchildren and DH4, DH5, like Rambo movies? What shall we do? And because we know that when it is implemented, when there's a political will, it's implemented, like Orsu's case in Croatia. We negotiated with the government. We visited the settlements. Today we are going to go and visit this settlement. This is the area that the litigation get started. And then there were certain terms and agreements, and the Croatian government implemented the case. So when you want, it can be done. I think I'm coming to the very end of my time. Last thing from, and last example from Bosnia, perhaps. If I'm not wrong, please correct me if I'm wrong. There's a clause in Bosnian constitution which bans Jews and Roma to take position as senior officials, right? This is a constitutional clause. As long as you have this, how you can motivate Roma youth and so on and so forth, to be more active, to take part in the society, etc. You have a constitutional barrier in front of them. They start the life with barriers in education, barriers, and you also start with a constitutional barrier. We have several research, my last sentences, we have several research, you can all access them on our website, in many, especially in Eastern European countries. Romani children are overrepresented in special education. Although they don't have any mental problems, they are just put into special in Hungary, in Czech Republic, in Slovakia, in Romania, etc., etc. As long as the system runs as such, we are losing a breakthrough from this, and changing this understanding and dilemma, we need a paradigm shift, all of us, starting with the governments, NGOs, EU, delegation, everybody. We need a paradigm shift. The rest, the technical issues, are much easier once we have this paradigm shift. Thank you very much.